that she did,
Mm-hmm.
which I now, after teaching my whole
Mm-hmm.
career, I can see where they really had a lot of work to do when they got
Mm-hmm.
home and a lot of planning. But it was just transition. You had first grade reader and a second grade reader, and same thing with math and
Mm-hmm.
all that. And then we'd have you go up on the chalkboard and you had to work problems out on the chalkboard.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we would have contests where it would not be grade level. It'd be like you were saying, maybe the top three grades would go up and they'd have a little contest who could do the problem
Mm-hmm.
fastest and that kind of thing. And but I mean, I've had people ask me over the years, "Do you think you had a poor education?" But in ways I thought it was better almost because I don't know as everybody did, but I would like if I was in the sixth grade and the eighth graders were doing problems on the board, I'd my desk see if I could do them faster.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd listen to what the next grade was doing, and you would learn
Mm-hmm.
ahead.
Yeah, I feel like there's more chances for students to teach students in a scenario like that in a
Right.
schoolhouse.
It was because we'd work with
Yeah.
each other.
So, what was like the lunch like? Did you guys all bring your lunch? Did they provide lunch, or
We had to bring them. There was no lunches provided.
did you guys just eat in the classroom, or?
Yes, we just didn't. Well, if the weather was nice, we'd go outside and eat,
Uh-huh.
sit in the grass and eat. But there wasn't any like picnic tables or anything,
Yeah.
so it had to be a pretty nice day and dry.
Yeah. So did your experience at a one-room schoolhouse influence you to want to have a career in education?
No, it didn't. I was like most eighth graders or even high schoolers. I had no clue what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought about it a lot. I grew up on a farm. I always thought, well, I'll probably be a farmer. And then when I got in high school, the light come on that wasn't a very good living. And so, no, it didn't have any influence.
Were you the first one in your family to get a college education?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's really all those, but I feel like I could probably think of more. Well, what kind of punishments were there? Was there just spanking, or?
Well, I don't remember. They used to, in movies, you'd see where they draw a circle on the board and you have to stand on your nose and
Yeah.
circle. Or stand in the corner and
Or a dunce
all that
cap?
stuff. Yeah, dunce cap. We didn't have any of that kind of thing. It just, as I recall, we'd have to sit. She had a desk or two in the back. It was turned around facing the back of the room, and you'd have to go back there and sit for a while. But generally speaking, I don't remember having much discipline problems. Everybody kind of feared the teacher
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said at the beginning, if you got in trouble at school, most all of us got in trouble at home,
Yeah.
big time. So all she had to do was come pick you up, go out and tell
Yeah.
what was going on, which I don't remember either one of the teachers doing that a lot. But
Mm-hmm. Do you know what kind of schooling your teachers had to go through to be a teacher?
not exactly. But when I taught school at the fort, this lady's still alive. In fact, she's probably in her 90s. But anyway, she taught one-room schoolhouse, and all they had to do was go through eighth grade, and then they could go and teach school.
That's crazy.
But then it got so it was high school,
Mm-hmm.
and but when she originally started, I think I can't remember. It seemed to me like it'd be awful young to be teaching, but I know that some of them only had like an eighth grade education.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure they had to be older than that.
Yeah. So did a lot of people not go to high school? They just went up to eighth grade and then stopped?
Right, because it's just like mandatory education. I think even now you can quit after eighth grade.
You can?
or after six, or after 16, whichever
Mhm.
comes first. Of course, if you've been in the 8th grade until, you know,
You're 16.
you might want to quit anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that that's changed. When I taught, it was always that way.
What was your favorite subject in school?
It was always math. I enjoyed math. And reading. I liked the Revolutionary War type
Mhm.
stuff. I liked to read all the books we had in there about that.
Did you guys learn a lot about history?
Yeah, you know, it was the history in the history books,
Mm-hmm.
which I now, or we all know, I think, that that's really not. It's kind of what the history that people want you to know,
Mm-hmm.
not the history that really happened. For instance, I didn't know that just little things like the United States was, the colonies and so forth were here and somewhat organized 125 years before George Washington was born.
Yeah.
And, you know, just things like that, but it wasn't in the books that way.
Mm-hmm. Made everyone seem like
Kind of like
we're
George
great.
Washington invented the United
Uh-huh.
States, as I recall. But
Yeah.
and then some of the other things.
Mm-hmm. We took a tour of the one-room schoolhouse, and they gave us examples of questions they'd ask the 8th graders, like an example of like the test they had. And I could not answer any of those questions because they were all so hard and different as to what we learn now. So do you think what you learned there is different than what people are learning now in 1st to 8th grade?
Sure, I think, you know, it's I think it's more advanced now.
Mm-hmm.
Although we had to go through I don't remember who came to our school, but they did it question us.
Mm-hmm.
We had to study that and all that stuff, but I think it was obviously there's good things about it, of course bad things. Good thing about it was all of that was individual
Mm-hmm.
education. If you weren't ready to move on in math, you didn't move on in math.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like now kind of like I've always said that it's education right now is like somewhat like Clay Como putting cars together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this bolt goes here and this bolt goes there, and that's what you do. Now all 3rd graders do a certain thing, and then they move on whether they're ready or not. That
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen then. They would, if you couldn't do fractions,
Uh-huh.
multiply fractions, you stayed on that until you learned it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, I think it was better for individuals.
Yeah, it would be. Were there any like special education students in your class, or
No, there wasn't any special education at all.
really?
There was no national, you know, federal programs
Yeah.
or anything like that. Like I say, you moved on.
When you knew?
Probably special education was that the teacher taught the student where they were.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them stayed in certain grades too, because you know if you got to the 8th grade and they had this bunch of questions they asked you and you were still fooling around in 6th grade,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't graduate, you didn't go on.
So did the students pretty much stay the same, or were there a lot of people moving and coming in?
No, they're pretty much the same all the
Mhm.
way through. So you know it was interesting
Yeah.
in that regard.
How small was it? What town was it that you went to school?
I just out in the country.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the school is still there.
Really?
The building is still there, and they've changed it, remodeled it to be a house.
That's cool.
But I haven't been by it for probably 10 years. But a friend of one of Josh's brother, of Jared, knew somebody down there or something. But she'd been by the school. She'd seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Still looks the same, except it's a house.
That's interesting. I feel like it'd be. Would you think it'd be a small house? Tiny little house?
No, it was pretty good size. I
Mhm.
mean, in fact, most all those old schools are houses.
Really?
They made them into houses. It'd be a 1-story, no basement.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be a small.
That's
It'd be a
cool.
small house.
I didn't know that. I always thought it was because we never talked about one room schoolhouses when I was in elementary school. Like schools now will go and visit the Emporia school and do a simulation of they're in the one room schoolhouse for a day. We never did that. I wish we would have because I think it's interesting to learn about, but we never did anything like that.
Well, they would have activities. I remember one of the things we all went to the Ice Capades in Kansas City. They'd
Mhm.
have one big trip a year, and we would go and go to like my school was Centennial, then there was like East Windy. I don't know why. There was a West Windy and all that, but we'd go over and have picnic with them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, like I say, we'd go over and have a picnic, and then we'd have a softball game. So it'd take most of the day. Of course, you would spend a month all excited about it.
Mm-hmm. So once you finished 8th grade, was there like a graduation or anything, or?
Yes, so we'd all, from all the county schools, all the one-room schools, would all go to the county seat that in my county, in Miami County, was Paola.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd all go down there and sit in a little auditorium, and you go up and get your little certificate and stuff like that. And another thing, it all had chores to do too. You'd take turns, and the taller guys and girls would wash the board, for instance, because they had chalk all had to be cleaned off. Somebody'd take the racers outside and beat on the concrete. Then we had to carry the older kids would carry in a bucket of water. Everybody kind of had chores to do. Some of them would help sweep the floor at the end of the day. So the end of our day was always chores, except for the water. But,
That's interesting. Now, kids' chores in school are like, go shred the paper, or something dumb. Turn it in.
Put your books away.
Yeah. Put your chair in. Kids can't even handle that most of the time.
I don't recall who mowed the lawn, but we didn't mow.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, is there anything else you want to tell me?
No, I don't think so. It just was, that the teacher, I just marvel now how they could handle all that. And
hey!
be prepared to every day. I would think, boy, it'd get tiring. And once in a while when they'd be sick, they would have a substitute teacher come by. And generally speaking, that was just a day of fooling around. Because they didn't, the teacher lived 7-8 miles from school, and if they were really sick, they couldn't get their plan in. And I don't, we did, as a student, we never thought about, did they write lesson plans, and did they have a certain, curriculum guide and all that stuff. I don't know those things, but I assume they must have been as a superintendent. But I don't know about lesson plans. I'd seem me like Mrs. McCullough. I know she'd been teaching a long time. Seemed like she ought to probably have it in her head. She wouldn't need to write it down every day. And the other thing would be, like I say, with a second grader, the lesson plan was determined by the student. Where they were. It wasn't determined by this guide that's supposed to be here on the third day of October. So
that'd be hard, especially if they actually had to write lesson plans for every grade, every day.
See, I don't think they did. I think they just do that. Okay, Brianna's reading this. We're going to read farther next day, and I remember we had a lot of workbooks. So when we weren't up front, why we'd have assignments in these workbooks, and then into the chapter questions, all that kind of stuff.
I think that's about it.
Okay,
Let's hope this recorded the whole
I
thing.
hope that's something that That'll be beneficial to you.